Welcome to this particular session. So let us continue with the concepts of getting the input from the user. So in the previous video we dealt with the concept of reading the bytes, isn't it? Now let us go with reading the characters. So usually whenever we write the program, we get the input from the user, or the end user will provide the required information to the system. And if you have built some applications, your application has to take that particular input from the user and process it. It may store the information or it may display the output on the monitor. That is what you usually do whenever you deal with the programming. Okay, so the first thing is to read a character from a buffered reader. You use actually read method. Okay, so buffered reader, what is buffered reader? It's an object, isn't it? You create some object and there will be some variables, and using that variables you fetch the information from the user, and you are going to keep all the information in a particular buffer. But how you are going to get the information from the user, which method you have to use? Read is the method which you have to use to get the input from the user, so that whenever he types something on the keyboard, the same information will be sitting on the buffer in the next step, so that you can process that particular data for the future requirements. Okay, the version of read method that will be using is int read throws IO exception. So that is one instruction actually. So if you want to get the information from the what you say, the end users, you have to go with that particular version. Okay, version of read method. So there is a concept of throws IO exception. So do you know anything about exception handling? Have you ever dealt with this particular concept in your C++? So exception is nothing but if something happens without your knowledge. See, whenever you write a program, as a programmer, as a human being, we cannot ensure that each and every code we write is logically correct, and sometimes it may get some errors. The best example is any number divided by 0, isn't it? So now we feel like, okay, it is not a big deal. We know that any number divided by 0 is infinity, and we are going to deal with it. It is okay. But when the person who has written the program for the first time, whether he has thought of all those things, I'm not sure, because such exceptions are possible, not in just in calculations. It may be for network also. Network exceptions may be there, or array exceptions may be there. So for example, the person who is trying to get the memory location very next to your initialized array, and it is actually kind of illegal thing, isn't it? You should not be accessing some other memory locations which is not assigned to you. Okay, so let me give one simple example over here with respect to this array or memory accessing concept. So for example, you are trying to build one application. Okay, the user will install that particular application on his platform. It may be for phone or laptop or anything. Okay, now you have been given with some sort of memory. Say for example, you have been given with the 500 MB of memory. So if your program is trying to access, so consider it like you are not writing any program which access the dynamic memory. That is a separate part of story. So for example, you have only 500 MB of memory. Your application is allowed to access only 500 MB of memory. If that is the case, if your program is trying to access the next megabyte or next MB, say for example 501 MBs of memory, that means you are trying to access one extra MB, isn't it? At that time, if that 1 MB is used by some other program, means you are trying to get the data which is stored in that 1 MB of memory, isn't it? Now if some other application developers, or the person who is developed the next application which is using that particular 1 MB of memory, he can claim that your application is trying to steal the information from his, isn't it? At that time there can be a legal issues as well, because whenever, see, you are writing some code in the lab, that is a separate part of story. But when you build some applications, you write code, and you, after getting the application, if you roll out that application to the public, anyone can use that application. At that time your application should not make any issues to the other applications or memory or processes running in the system, and it should not crash. And there are so many actually concepts. Whenever we say application development, we have so many informations which has to be kept in mind before going to, or before rolling out that particular application to the public. Fine. That is the reason why these exceptions and exception concepts come into picture. So now here it is IO exception. If something goes wrong with the input output console, if something goes wrong with the hardware devices, if something goes wrong with the maybe power supply, so at that time and all, that exception handler should handle the kind of scenarios or scenes efficiently. Fine. So you have to remember, see, in Java we have some other exception also. So we have so many exception classes and so many exception concepts or templates, but in C++ we had some limited exceptions, isn't it? So you can list out so many, but it is not possible to by heart each and every exceptions. But based on your requirements, say for example you are writing some application which requires a try catch block. Okay, now if something goes wrong, your catch block has to accept that particular error. There has to be some exceptional code you have to write over there. Okay, so when you develop some applications you get to know, but as of now you think this much, whenever you use a read method you can go with that particular version. Int read throws IO exception. So each time that read method is called, it reads a character from the input stream and returns it as an integer value. Why? Because the data type you mentioned over there for that particular instruction is int, isn't it? If you are going for char read throws IO exception, then it will take the character. Right now from the input stream it is going to get the integer value, or it returns the integer value. So it returns -1 when the end of the stream is encountered. Okay, so in this particular thing, it is not just for the picking up the information, it is just for it is required to say that if the end of stream is detected, it has to send the -1. So where all this -1, 1 or 0 come into picture? So as a developer you would have written one template, you would have written one snippet where if the returned value is -1, it is indicating that your input stream is empty, or end of input stream has encountered. You have to think like that. Not only you as a programmer, you have to write such concepts, you have to include all the possible directions, you have to think in all the possible directions before getting into the final application of any project. Okay, so as you can see, it throws an IO exception. So IO exception will be thrown when you are going to get the, or you are going to reach the end of the stream. Okay, that is the meaning of that line. So this is just the theoretical part. When you actually go with respect to coding, you are getting you will get the better picture. Okay, now the next thing is, so there is one program here. I hope you can see the program. So if you have any pen and paper, you can note it down if you want, or if you have the system you can run also, no issues. So the first line is import java.io.star. Let us start with the start line, first line itself. So what you are doing, you are importing the package called java.io. Now java.io, what it does, in the previous explanation I already explained. So whenever you want this IO basics, in the IO basics slide I have actually included this java.io. So whenever you want input output operation in your particular program, you have to get the packages which is already available in Java packages. Java package or Java directory we can say, or Java container, I can say like that also. So don't confuse with the there is a separate concept called containers, Java containers. That is a separate part of story. But as of now you think like Java will be having some bucket, inside the bucket there will be lot of packages. You think like this. Okay, now because there is a separate concept of containers in future classes we are going to learn. So that then you may get confused with that container and this container. Don't do that. You think like Java will be having its own bucket. Inside the bucket there will be so many packages. Based on your programming, based on your requirement, you are going to get the required packages for your program. Think this much. Okay, now what is that dot star? So star indicates, I don't know whether you have seen you have gone for regular expression concepts. So see, star indicates you have to consider everything. Star, that is the meaning of star. Okay, now what is the meaning of that first line? So here it is like java.io, and whatever the methods, whatever the information stored in that particular package, we are going to access it. Please give the permission. That is the meaning of that line. So whenever you go for that java.io.star, that means whatever the methods which are present inside that particular Java package, you can implement, you can use those packages for your, those methods for your program. That is the meaning. So if you don't want that star, you can specify a particular method, or you can specify a particular concept which is required to you. Say for example, let me give a simple example if you have any doubt over here. So you go for stdio.h. In C only I will give, because Java is very new to you. I cannot give any other example in Java itself. Let me go with the C programming. So in C programming, what you have done, you have gone for #include stdio.h, isn't it? So stdio.h, whenever you include that particular header file in your program, that means you will be getting the access to printf and scanf. Whether it is only for printf and scanf, no, you have some other methods also, some other functions also. Probably you don't have used it, because printf and scanf is the frequently used functions in C. So in the same way, now there is one more question. Can you claim that you know everything about C? Definitely not. How many header files you used in programming? Hardly 15 to 20 maximum, that also. How many header files are there in C programming? Have you ever checked that include folder in your C directory, or inside the turbo C? There are so many header files, isn't it? More than maybe 45 to 50 or 52 header files, I guess. Isn't it? That is the predefined header files. You can increase the header files also. And each and every header file will give so many functions, so many functionalities. But we are using only limited functions. Based on our requirement, we make use of it. In the same fashion, why I am giving all this story, or why I am saying all this story, because see, in stdio.h you used only two functions mainly, printf and scanf. Now if the condition is like you need only printf, what you have to do? For example, I'm giving, so you can go for some syntax. Actually in C we don't have that such kind of syntax, but in Java we will be having such syntax. So for example, you can go do like stdio.h, say for example -printf. That what is the meaning? So from stdio.h header file, I am going to use only printf in your program. That is the meaning, isn't it? You can't do in C, you can't do like that, but I'm giving the one rough idea. But in Java you can do that. In Java, if you are not going for that star symbol, that means you have to specifically write, or explicitly you have to write a particular method or a particular functions. I'm sorry, I should not be using function word. A particular method or particular concept or package you want to import. Otherwise, Java will never understand. You cannot just go for java.io. You can actually, but if you want to get the entire functionalities or features available in that particular package, it is better you go for .star. So that means from that package you are going to get each and everything. That is the meaning. Okay, the next thing is you are going to create one class. So this class is for main method. So br read. So you have to remember, in the first video I said, whatever the class name you give for the main method, wherever the class includes main method, the class name has to be the file name. You have to give the same name, otherwise you cannot compile. If you have any doubt, you can check. You may definitely get the error at that time. Fine. Now, so after the class name, then you are coming to the next line. So you are going for main method. Inside the main method, you are going to go use the exception concept. So here, see, they have written like throw IO exceptions. So now don't think about your try catch block. In C you did the same thing, isn't it? Exception handling, try, some code, and catch block. So if there are any errors inside the try block, you are directly you are going to catch that particular errors in a catch block, and you are going to print something on the monitor. That is the concept, whatever the concept you learned in C++. But here in this particular thing, what you are going to do, you are just saying that throw IO exception. If there are any issues with respect to coding, you have to throw some IO exceptions, so that there will be separate handler for this exception. So Java is very strong. In that case, Java is very strong. So very efficient to handle the exceptions. Even C# also. But so in Java, directly you can write that particular exception concept. So it says throws IO exceptions. If there any issue with the IO, then get me the exception, or whatever it may be the error. Okay, now let us get in. So inside that, what you are going to do, so it is a one line, don't get confused. Public static void main, after that parameter throws IO exception. It is a one line. Okay, it is one method. So if there are any exceptional errors in main method, throw it, and Java handler will handle it, and it is going to give some errors if there are any. That is the meaning. Okay, now inside that main method, what you are going to do, you are going to declare one variable with the name C, which is of type character or char. So that means C will hold the character value. That is the meaning, isn't it? Now what you are going to do, you are going to create that object, isn't it, that buffered reader, and you are going to give one variable, that one name equal to new symbol, obviously new keyword, and after that you are going to create the stream, input stream. So how? In the previous video I already explained how you are going to use it. So you are going to take the input stream reader and you are going to pass the parameter like system.in, so that whatever the information given by the user using the keyboard, it has to be fetched and it has to be it should come via stream, and it has to be stored in the buffer. That is the meaning. Okay, now you are going to initialize it. So you are actually initializing, you are getting the foundation over there to get the input from the user. Now after that, what you are going to do, you are going to print something on the monitor. What you are going to print, you are going to print like enter characters and Q to quit. So whenever user presses Q, then your program has to quit. That is the meaning. Okay, now what is the next thing? You have to read the character from the keyboard, isn't it? Now they have used do while loop. You can go for any loops. You can go for while also. You can go for also. So depending on your coding skills, you can go for the loops, but here they have gone for do while loop. Okay, do, inside the do block, what you are going to do, you are going to read the information from the user. How? Which method you are going to use? You are going to use read method. Because to read the characters, in the previous slide only I explained, to read the characters, which method you have to use? You have to use read method. Now why it is like that? Why you are seeing that C equal to in the brackets char next br dot read method? Why it is like that? So if there any issues, if there any, because by default it may take it as an integer, or by default it is going to take as a string. Okay, so if you want, this is nothing but explicitly you are converting the types. Type conversion, isn't it? So by default it will be in a different type. Ultimately you have to store that particular data as a character, because you have declared C as a character type, char space C, isn't it? So you are explicitly converting the type. So whatever the type, so for example you would have seen, so let me give one simple example for type conversion. Say for example, you have declared one variable with the data type float. Okay, float means for fractional values, isn't it? Say for example 2.3, 5.6, anything as such. Now ultimately you want to display that particular read value, whatever the value read by the user or the system which will read the information from the user, it has to be printed as an integer value. What you have to do? As a programmer, if you have already written, you can say that directly we can go for some, say for example, if I consider C programming, directly we can go for printf %d and variable name. But in fact, what is the actual method? It has to be %f and that variable name, because that variable is of type float, isn't it? Now there also you would have seen explicit type conversion concept. So float value has to be, or forced to be, converted as integer at the end. If you go for the same concept in the bracket int and followed by your reading concepts, isn't it? So it is nothing but explicit type conversion. So with the different data type can be converted to any other types based on that particular concept. Now ultimately whatever the information read by the system, it will or the program, it will convert it to character type and it will store in C. That is the meaning of that line. Okay, now why use that br.read? So br is nothing but what? You have created the object in the above line, isn't it? So it is a reference, isn't it? So using that variable or object name, you are going to go, you are going to use that particular br, and you are using dot operator, and you are calling read method, because read method is present in that input stream concept. isn't it? Now you have to remember that same thing, byte stream classes, and which one more is character stream classes. In the initial video or in the previous video I explained both the classes available, and it has got its own abstract classes, isn't it? Writer, reader, and input stream, output stream, and all. So if you are getting confused, you make a note somewhere, so that each and every time I need not to explain the same concept again and again. Fine. Now you are going to read it. So after reading, what you are going to do? You are going to print it. How you are going to print? SOP, or system.out.println, and you are going to put that character on the or you are going to pass that particular character, so that it can directly go into the monitor screen, output screen. Fine. Now in the while, what you are doing, you are going to check whether user has given Q or not, isn't it? That is what it is doing. Now I have one doubt here. Okay, think on this particular doubt and get back to me. If possible, get back to me. Now what if user want to give the character as Q itself? What he has to do? Say for that is what is the meaning means. Say the user has some characters in his mind. Say for example A, B, D, C, and Q. Even Q also has to reflect on the monitor. How to change the program? Because this program will definitely don't work. Because whenever user puts Q, your loop comes out and your program terminates. But if the requirement is like user has to put the Q on the monitor itself, what he has to do? So this is the question. How can you modify this program? That also I want. So how this do while loop works? So always remember, it is not like while loop. Do while means once it will definitely execute, after that it will check the condition. Now if the first character is A, it will execute this much and it will check for while condition. If C is not equal to Q, definitely not equal, because you have entered A, again it will go to do while loop. Until and unless user press Q, this loop will be keep on running. Fine. That is the meaning of this particular code. Fine. If you have system, I ask you to run this and mention that particular doubt. I had some doubt recently. How can you change the program so that user can print the Q also on the monitor? What has to be changed? Think and tell me. Okay. The next thing is reading strings. Okay. Now in the initial video, what was that? Reading the byte or binary data or a stream of data. Next is reading the characters. Now it is reading the strings. What do you mean by strings? So can you consider one entire sentence as a string? You can consider it, isn't it? So strings are nothing but if you have multiple characters, multiple words, and that line is called strings, isn't it? So in the same fashion, so here to read a string from the keyboard, use the version of read line. So ultimately you are actually reading the entire line, not just one character or two characters. Okay, so that is a member of a buffered reader class. See, now the actual picture coming, the actual concept coming into picture. Now see, what is the meaning of that? That is a member of buffered reader class. That means buffered reader class will be having so many methods, isn't it? Buffered reader class had a read method. Now it has a read line method. That means that is the reason I said Java is very vast. Because in there are n number of classes in Java. These n number of classes will be having n number of methods. Based on your requirement, you are going to use the method. Okay, that is the difference. That's why Java is vast. You cannot just within a blink of eye you cannot learn Java. You can learn the basics, you can get the foundation, but if you want to work more on that, you have to keep on programming or keep on coding or keep on using different packages. Okay, that is the reason why I said in the initial class. Okay, now there is a general form over there. Say string read line throws IO exception. In the previous what you have done, it is int read throws IO exception, isn't it? Whenever you get the end of the line or end of the character, or if the stream is empty, then it is going to send -1 as a code or a flag value. Now here what you're doing, you are using the string data type because you want to read the entire line. Say for example, the line is like, see, my name is Srinidhi and I am working in SVS Bantwal. If that is the thing, so it is the entire line, it is the entire string. So if that entire string has to be taken, then you have to use this string data type and you have to go for that general form. Okay, as you can see, it returns a string object. Why it returns a string object? Because you are reading entire string from the user. It is an entire line. Read line method will get the entire line given by the user. That is the meaning. Fine. So there is one more program for you. So read a string from console using buffered reader. It's a class. So again, it is Java IO. I don't need to explain the same thing again. Again, there is a class with the name br read lines. Inside that, one main method. So main method will throws an exception if there any. It will throws an IO exception, input output exception, only if there any. That means if your keyboard is not working, or if you cannot read the input from the user, or your system has some problems, or your OS is not responding, or your application get crashed, or you are using some multi-threading concepts, or don't go with the multi-threading concept. If you have multi-process things running in the background, and if there are any issues with the IPC, inter-process communication, or if you have any network errors, and because of network errors, if you are getting any issues with the input reading concept, it is only for, IO exception is only for input output. Don't think about rest of the concepts. But because of those concepts, your reading your IO or input output concept, input output thing may get affected, isn't it? At that time, it has to throw some exception. That is the meaning. So if there any exception in your main method, it will throw it. Okay, throw it means what? What do you mean by throwing? Obviously, that error will be shown on the monitor. That is the meaning. Don't think like throwing means you are neglecting. No, it is not like that. Throwing some exception means you are going to print that error on the monitor. Fine, in some of the games you would have seen, or in some of the applications you would have seen. Say if you are using Avast antivirus, sometimes it will get some pop-up, isn't it? Saying that if something goes wrong, or if it is crashed, it will get one pop-up message saying some lines of code, or saying that it is not working, that object is not working, or code has crashed, or restart it, or something like that. Fine, that is nothing but exceptional concepts, exception thing. Okay, now you are going to create the buffer reader for system.in. So you are going to create an object, then using after that creating the object, you are going to declare one variable called str, which is of type string. That means str variable has the caliber to keep a string or a line of code or line of information. That is the meaning. Okay, now you are going to print two things: enter line of text and enter stop to quit. In the previous program, what you have done, you have gone for Q. Now here, if you press stop, or if you enter stop, your program will terminate, or you are going to come out of the loop. I have the same question again here. If the line is like please stop the queue, if the user wants to print like that, what he has to do? Because if after writing please, if he goes for stop, your program get terminated, isn't it? What should be done? If the line should be like hi, please stop the car. If you want to print this particular thing on the monitor, hi, please stop the car. How this program will never work for that, isn't it? Because whenever you give stop over there, it will, isn't it? Or after getting the enter, you have to think both the ways, because it is not just, see, whenever I say this, you have to execute and you have to check. If it is one line, it may take, if you press enter and if you go for stop, then if you press enter, it may come out of the loop. You have to check. First check and let me know. Okay. Now, after printing those two, you are going for do while loop. Again here, you are going to get the line. Now, your question will be there definitely, because why we are not writing the string in the bracket, isn't it? In the previous example, what we have done, see here, we have written in the bracket char, isn't it? Now here we are not writing anything. Why? Because by default in Java program, whatever you read from the user, it will be of type string. Remember this. Okay, now there is no concept of explicit type conversion, because you are reading the string itself. Directly you can use the string using that object. You can get the information from the user, or the line of information from the user, and you can store in str variable. That is the meaning. Now once you read it from the user, what you are going to print, and you are going to show that particular thing on the output screen. Fine. After that, you are going to check, say, why in the while you have some code. So not of str dot equals stops. What is the meaning? If the user did not give stop as a word, then definitely you have to continue with the loop. That is the meaning, isn't it? Not of str dot equals. Equals is a method, equals is a function. Fine. So equals method, what it does, it will compare what is the actual thing. It will compare. If the str has got stop word, then it has to terminate the loop, otherwise continue with the do while loop. That is the meaning. Fine. Now you may ask the same question, why we haven't gone for that equals here. It depends. Definitely you can use the equal method, but here it is a character, isn't it? It is better go for simpler things. See, whenever you write a program, it has to be simple and efficient. Okay, always remember that. And you have to reduce the number of codes or number of lines. With the minimum number of lines, if you can accomplish the work, then it is the best thing. You have to remember like that. Okay, now that is the explanation I can give for this program. If you have the system, I request you to execute this program so that you can visualize. If you do not have the system, let me arrange one video which will consist all these programs and execution of all these programs. Okay, don't worry. Now you have one more program. It is a tiny editor actually, so it is available in your textbook also. I just took this program for the explanation. Okay, how it is exactly working. Let me explain on this. Okay, now you are going to import the package. After that, you are going to declare the main method, and you are going to add the IO exception also. If there are any issues, your program has to send the exceptional concept. Then you are going to create the object because you are going to create the buffered reader so that you can read the input from the stream using the streams, using streams and using system.in thing. Then you are going to go for one string array with the name str. Now what is that new string of 100? So at the max, how many the information can be stored in that particular string? 100, isn't it? So that is the meaning. Then you are going to print 2 line, enter line of text and enter stop to quit. Next, you are using one for loop. So 100 times that loop will run 100 times. Why? At the max you can go for 100, isn't it? While declaring the variable itself, string variable, string array, you have gone for 100. So 100 information can be stored. So you are running the for loop for 100 times. Then you are going to read the lines from the user using br variable or br object. So using that br object, you are using read line method so that at the max 100 lines can be stored, isn't it? 100 lines can be accessed or can be taken from the user. Fine. And where you are going to store? You are going to store in that str or string array. Okay, 100 times you can store, or 100 lines you can store. That's the meaning. Fine. Now next thing is, if stri dot equals stop, again it is going to check whether user have given that particular stop word or not. If he has given stop, then you have to terminate the loop, otherwise you can continue with the loop. So that is the reason why they have gone for that break. Break is nothing but if it is true, break it. If the string value is stop, then break the loop. That is the meaning. Once you come out of the loop, then what you are going to do, you are going to print that here is your file. Now next thing is display the lines inside the files or inside that particular detail information. There will, it will be stored in that particular string array, isn't it? From there you have to display each and every lines which is stored in that particular string array. How you are going to display it? Using, again, you need one more for loop. You are going to run it for number of times. How many number of input you have taken, that many number of times you have to actually run that particular loop. And again, first it will check whether the string value is a stop or not. If it is not, print it. Why you have used that conditional statement before the printing things? Because some users have the habit, isn't it? In the first line only he can give stop. Now if there is no information to display itself, then what you are actually trying to print, isn't it? So first it will check if the line is stop or not. If it is not no, if that line is not stop, then definitely it will go for printing the lines which is present in that particular string array. That is the meaning. That's why you have given that particular equals, that if of string of I str of I dot equals stop. Okay, so that is the syntax you have to use. So if you have the system, again I will say, run this program, you can get the better picture, better idea. And if you have the habit of changing the program, you can change it, you can modify it, put your own idea, put your own operators, put your own concepts over here. Now don't worry much about packages and all, or don't worry much about class or creating the objects or rest of the classes, using the rest of the classes. So whenever you go in depth with respect to subject, you will see one by one, no issues. But if you have any idea of modifying this program, you can modify and you can see. If you have if you get any errors, you can get back to me. You can send this error screenshot, I will solve it, no issues. Fine. So the last but not the least, so it is writing console output. So so far what you have done, so far you have seen how to read the input from the user. Now you are going to see how to put that particular thing on the output screen. So console output is most easily accomplished with the print and println described earlier. So because you are using print method or println method, isn't it? System.out.println or system.out.print. So it is better to go for, in the previous explanation also I said that it is better to go for println itself. Entire line can be printed, but print also fine, it is not a wrong thing, but usually we go for SOP, that means system.out.println, which are used in most of the examples in this book. Okay, so these methods are defined by the class print stream, okay, which is the type of object referenced by system.out. So print stream is nothing but a class which will be having its own number of methods, and majorly you are going to use println method to print or output something or put the result on the monitor screen. Okay, so output screen, fine. Now print stream is an output stream derived from output stream. Okay, print stream is a output stream actually, so it is derived from the output stream. So output stream is the top class, isn't it? From there you are going to derive this print stream, and the print stream will be having some methods like println or print method. Fine. It also implements the low level method write. So what is that low level method? What is the meaning? So low level method is nothing but, so you are using write method to get the or put the information in binary data. If you have bytes or binary informations, or if you want to process the binary things, then you are going for low level things. So whenever you read the word like low level in any textbooks or any part, that means related to computer science I'm talking. So it is nothing but binary informations or binary system, dealing with the binary systems, zeros and ones. Because in low level, system only understands zeros and ones. It will never understand all these characters, lines, images, videos, audios, anything as such. Fine. So that is the thing. The next thing is the write can be used to write the console. Okay, there is one simple code snippet you can see there. So there is a class with the name write demo, and you have a main method. Inside the main method you have one variable of type int, and you are going to store capital A in B. Now what happens actually, because B is of type integer, fine, now you are trying to store capital A in B. Now get back to the concept of ASCII values. Okay, I'm not going to explain all those ASCII values things. Now capital A, what is ASCII number, think and let me know. Okay, if you cannot say, this is not a class, otherwise definitely I would have asked any one of you, but as this is a video, I just can request you to concentrate on all those concepts as well, that ASCII conversion or ASCII concepts. Fine. Now in the next line, what you are going to do is system.out.write of B. So obviously it will use the actual thing stored in B. What it is stored, which number is being stored, you have to say. What is the ASCII value of capital A or ASCII value of small a, and what exactly you are trying to store in B, and what value will be stored in B. Now if you have system, make sure that after executing these two lines, go for system.out.println also, and go for system.out.print also. check and let me know. If you have any errors, get the screenshot to me. Fine. Otherwise, those who don't have the system, if you are actually willing to execute some programs, there will be some online compilers also. You can go for in a smartphone also, you can try it. But if you are finding difficulties, don't worry. After the this particular unit, I will put one programming video. All these examples I will put, and I will show you the execution, how exactly it is working. Fine, no need to worry. Now this is nothing but the writing the console output. So far you have seen IO basics, input and output thing. So it is one of the important thing. And buffered reader is a class which will be having its own subclasses also there may be, and there are so many methods also. Using those methods you can perform your reading and writing concepts. Fine. So let me wind up here. So this was a small information I just wanted to give. So thanks for watching, and rest of the things we can see in the next video. Thank you.